Good morning. Can you all hear me? Yes, great. Welcome to HUD. My name is Ana Maria Archilagos, and I am the Deputy Assistant Secretary for International and Philanthropic Innovation, or what we call IPI, here at HUD. I really want to welcome all of you, our audience. Many of you I've had the chance to meet over the past 2 days, and by now we're good friends. So welcome you, and also those that are joining us online for today's policy exchange. It's not working. You cannot hear me. Okay. Keep going? Okay. It'll be working in a minute. Our policy exchange is going to be focusing on sustainable urban housing in the Americas. Our office, IPI, supports HUD's efforts to find new solutions and align ideas and resources, and we do this by working across public, private, and civil sectors to further HUD's mission. IPI does this by performing research, we develop networks, and we facilitate collaboration of key partners and resources. As part of our goal, we work to generate lessons, evidence, and best practices in the housing and community development field from lots of sectors, including philanthropy and international. These can all be applied to HUD's work, and we do this in one way is by creating this policy series, which is monthly. The office supports our broader office, which is Policy Development Research, their mission by creating cohesive and economically healthy communities and by conducting research on priority housing and community development issues. Our past policy exchanges, which many of you have participated in, have addressed a diverse set of topics, such as the role of urban anchors, methods for developing indicators for sustainable urban development, and just last week we had a really fascinating conversation which included the Canadians and the Australians on comparative approaches to youth homelessness. Today's policy exchange will highlight the winners of the Sustainable Urban Housing Competition. This was a competition that was launched just last year, and it was in collaboration with HUD, partnered with Ashoka Changemakers, the Rockefeller Foundation, the U.S. Department of State, the American Planning Association, and of course the Brazilian Ministry of Cities. This was in support of President Barack Obama's Energy Climate Partnership of the Americas, or ECPA. There were 11 very, very strong finalists. As the Deputy Secretary said yesterday, it was just very difficult to figure out which were the strongest. They were all just so great. And they had, 8 of them had the opportunity to tell their stories yesterday at the National Building Museum. If you missed that, I invite you to visit IPI's website, and that's IPI.
HUDuser.org/IPI.
Great. There you can see not just yesterday's webcast, but also the archive of all of our past sessions. Today, we have the fantastic opportunity to hear from the 3 winning entries, and that's what we will do. We will profile their work and also allow a chance for questions from the audience. I know that I have lots of questions. And right now, I would like to introduce our moderator for this morning, Stuart Sarkozy-Banoczy, who is a Director for Philanthropic Research and Initiatives at IPI. I need to say that he worked tirelessly, and he's the creative genius behind the competition and behind the past 3 days. And so any compliments really go to him and to our fantastic talented staff at IPI, who is Justin. Let's see, we have Justin, wave your hand. There's Emily, there's William, and if you see Alvin or Christina and others, please make sure to thank them because they really did work very hard. And with that, I would hand it over to Stuart, and we can get started. Thank you.
Thanks, Ana Maria. So despite what Ana Maria says, the creative genius is really at the table and also sitting out in the audience, because not only do we have the 3 winners that we're going to do the panel with today, we have the other finalists in the room. And you did, if you were around at the National Building Museum the last couple days, you did get to see and hear from them. And if you have not gone on to the Changemakers site to see the entries that were on there, I do want to say also, to put this in perspective, there were 289 entries. There were 187 alone from Latin America, 50 alone from Brazil, 50 from the United States, and then a scattering across the rest of the globe. So these 3 folks you see up here and the other 8 in the audience represent quite an amazing set of innovations to have come through that. I first of all, of course, have to thank the partners on this, as Anna Marie mentioned, APA State, Ashoka Changemakers, who allowed us to badger them into using their platform and run with this the entire time over the November to February period, and are continuing to work with us as well. The Brazilian Ministry of Cities, and of course the American Planning Association, who really helped with the event the last couple days at the National Building Museum, and has been doing other work related to the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas in Brazil and other locations in Latin America. So it's quite a partnership, and we hope to see that continue. We do hope that we're allowing those of you in the audience here and those of you watching online, because I might remind that this is video webcast too, so I know we have, because it's John Reinhardt from APA's last day, he is sitting and live streaming this instead of being in the room, and I know others are doing the same thing with some of our partners and others out in the global audience. So as Anna Marie said, most importantly, we're trying to grow these relationships, grow the work that we're doing, share these models, look at what it can mean for transference north to south, south to south, what we can do domestically, and more than anything else, many times innovations like this and these social entrepreneurs just take too long to rise to the top and too long to be recognized. So I hope that we're able to expose all of our finalists, but think of those other 278 that are out there too that didn't make it into the 11 finalists. So a little housekeeping. I'm going to introduce the three winners, our panelists. They will do a short 10-minute overview. I will ask them each a question right after their overview, and then we will open it up to questions. And as most of you know, we will then have final closing comments from Deputy Secretary Ron Sims, who of course was a judge on the competition as well, along with the other folks that we recognized yesterday. So again, my name is Stuart Sarkozy-Banoczy, and I'll be moderating today. Let me introduce you to our three winners. First of all, immediately to my left, we have Sergio Prado from Curators de Terra, otherwise known as Earth Curators. Sergio was inspired by the 1992 Rio Summit and started the NGO Verde to create innovative sustainable architecture. He developed the concept of creating construction materials by combining all kinds of waste with organic resins, and in 2004, Sergio joined forces with the architect Marcia Macul, who was disappointed with the traditional cement-based construction techniques, but was inspired by ancient earth-based building systems. So Earth Curators has developed an innovative system that transforms waste into manufactured materials for housing, helping cities' healing process. The core innovation consists of a patented technology that combines waste with organic resins in order to produce renewable construction materials, which are then used to build sustainable and affordable houses through a construction process that Earth Curators has also developed and tested. Next, let me introduce you to Constanza Ledesma of Habitat for Humanity of Argentina. Constanza leads FHA's Institutional and Resource Development Department and is responsible for those relationships with individual, corporate, and institutional donors. Habitat for Humanity's Argentina's Recycling Urban Homes project aims to recycle urban spaces in the city of Buenos Aires to build sustainable social housing that can be rented on a system of fair rent to families currently renting inadequate rooms because they cannot meet the requirements of the formal rental market. And as a property guarantee, formal job, deposits, all of the kinds of things that we also hear in many other countries, including the United States. Besides focusing on livable cities, the environment, and financial inclusiveness, the project also incorporates HFHA's traditional focus of sustainable human and community development. And finally, we have Aaron Bartley, co-founder of People United for Sustainable Housing, or Push Buffalo, as they're known, which mobilizes residents to envision and implement a sustainable development plan for improving housing conditions and green job opportunities in Buffalo, New York. Buffalo's Green Development Zone, GDZ, was founded by Push Buffalo in 2008. It is a place-based initiative anchored in a 25-block section of the city's west side. Push's GDZ combines green affordable housing construction, community-based renewable energy projects, housing, weatherization, green jobs training, and urban agriculture, all of that. Toward the goal of creating pathways to employment for neighborhood residents in the green jobs sector while improving housing conditions and reducing the neighborhood's carbon footprint. And you saw a couple of folks with Aaron yesterday who are directly involved in that as board members and one of the people doing the reconstruction of the houses. So we have an exciting panel. Again, they're going to speak for a short time. And then we'll get to the questions, because I know many of you have had them, and we'll see what we have on the Twitter feed. There are already a couple of them. So I invite Sergio to go up to the podium and do his presentation first.
Good morning. We are very happy to be here, the Curators of the Earth, launching a global proposal, sustainability for all. I just want to remember that sustainability can only be measured in time, in the different scales of time, from the fourth dimension above. The sustainability of the moon, remembering, is based on the solidity of the earth. The sustainability of the earth is based on the solidity of the sun, and so on, till we can say that God is good. So the system we are showing you needs to be global. And this is a pattern for 8 billion people share, because this is the new dimension which is required to share a new model of economy, a new model of sociability, a new model of environmental acting, preserving our biomes, our oceans, and our cities. So I think we can see the images of the project.
Questions?
With each passing day, Brazil is a country with more solutions. In the global community, you've gone from relying on the help of other nations to now helping fight poverty and disease. But I'm here to tell you that the American people don't just recognize Brazil's success, we root for Brazil's success. As you confront the many challenges you still face at home as well as abroad, let us stand together. Not as senior and junior partners, but as equal partners, joined in a spirit of mutual interest and mutual respect, committed to the progress that I know that we can make together. We need a commitment to innovation and technology, which is why we've agreed to expand cooperation between our scientists, researchers, and engineers. Together, we can also promote energy security and protect our beautiful planet. As two nations that are committed to greener economies, we know that the ultimate solution to our energy challenges lies in clean and renewable power.
The more we see the problems of modern life, the more we realize that they are interconnected and interdependent. We must see these systemic problems not individually, but as parts of a cyclic web of relations. Reusing 30% of the global waste in just 1 year, it is possible to give houses to all the homeless. The Global Green Seal is a management model that enables the transformation of the waste problem into sustainable housing solutions through clean plants, ecological habitats, sustainable architecture. The seal guarantees proof of origin, clean production, correct destination. This synergistic solution needs government's commitment to its implementation. Brazil's national policy of solid waste can be replicated throughout the Americas. The clean plant has a cyclic process that transforms waste into useful goods. The process has 4 stages: source separation, biostabilization, waste processing, clean construction materials. All residues generated by the plant are handled internally. With this low-cost and easy-to-apply process, 500 million houses can be built in just 1 year. Sustainable art, a creative transformation of wasted energy. Nature does not know waste. If buildings are like trees, cities are like forests. Let's solve crises with green benefits.
So I'm going to immediately ask a question here of Sergio. How has the development of the clean plant and the waste processing, energy generation, and materials manufacturing made an impact on the local human and ecological environments where you're doing it?
Well, the clean plant is basically a digester of the consumption of human beings of all kinds of products. So it will receive all the collected waste from the municipal organization the same way it's done today. But instead of going far away to deposit it, it comes very slow because you can have this very near where you produce it, your neighborhood. They can be the smallest possible to diminish the distance, the pollution. This process is much cleaner and productive than are the incinerators, of course, which give no jobs and produce pollution in the high atmosphere. and the land process of capturing the. It transformed all the waste into three qualities, so in energy, in sustainable materials, and in fertilizers. So the fertilizer go back to the municipality, to the forest, to the preservation of the rivers and all the surroundings, the green surroundings. So it's a completely linked process. It's an organic process in one side of generating more bamboos instead of woods, but planting new woods also, having a green economy, and securing health and food in the own neighborhood. Each house, when you call sustainable house, is a house that needs to produce the quality of life for the owner, of food and quality of life in a global sense, in working somehow, in producing. So this concept is available for everyone in the municipality. So the economical side of the clean industry, the clean plant, is based on the fact that the quantity of project is guaranteed by the city, by the municipality. So the investment is very direct, more economical for the city because it doesn't have to send it away. And all the products which are generated there, the electricity and the city pays enough rent to the appliance of the money, and the products, they begin to, they are the patrimony, they are the mark of the community. So it comes back to the community. You can make the roads, the pavements, the housing, all the kinds of necessities, and the same way that you produce the humus, the fertilizers, we go exactly to the neighborhood. This is a new pragmatic bioeconomy, which the municipality has. And this project was selected to be the main theme of the Rio +20 next year in 5 June. So we are inviting all Americans somehow to unite efforts, exactly as President Obama came to Brazil and asked us exactly to produce what we are showing here now in first instance, to have a proposal that can be widely promoted, sharing the importance of each individual into the sustainability of the global world. So this is the proposal that all Americans can, in this next 8 months, share our experience of these interventions in sustainable cities, which is exactly represent already 80% of humanity, sharing a proposal of real sustainability made with the long age of human beings on Earth, of the administration of human production. Don't look into the waste has a bad connotation. So this bad connotation is because we are bad. Let's exchange this project, let's change this project to consciousness production. So in the same way that this bottle, I drink the water, the bottle in itself is better than glass because this bottle here cleans, doesn't need soap to be cleaned. This is terephthalate. Terephthalato, which is here, which shines, has the same quality of the fluor of our eyes. It doesn't need soap, of the Teflon. So these materials, instead of throwing out, why not asking Aquafina, Coca-Cola exactly to endorse and right here, make good use of myself later on, make myself be a building. So this is the basic idea, from consumption to a renewable use in a social, ecological, ethnical value. So you can move this thing which you have paid everything for it for a new sustainable world.
Thank you. That's great. And again, these are the kinds of ideas that we look to replicate and continue to highlight, and we'll hopefully have some more questions from the audience for Sergio. And there are some example products sitting down here for those of you who are sitting in the room. I want to turn it over to Constanza and let her take the podium and tell us about her work in La Boca.
Good morning, everyone.
Sorry, we have to set up some close-in mics for the interpreters.
Do you have the PowerPoint presentation? Okay. Okay. This is about a project that wants to contribute to make Buenos Aires a livable city for the 306,000 people that live in inadequate conditions because they cannot access the rental market. So let's go to Buenos Aires for a while. Buenos Aires has beautiful buildings, but there are 100,000 underutilized properties in the city, whereas there are also 87 homeless families, according to the city numbers. These are figures of the Universidad General San Martín, of a researcher called Raúl Fernández Wagner. Also, if you go to Buenos Aires, La Boca is a must, with its colorful houses and caminito and tango music. But also in La Boca, there are 5,000 families that, as mentioned, could not access the formal rental market. They lack of a guarantee, a property to give us a guarantee in the same city. They lack a formal job, the right looks to be trusted, money for the deposit. So they live in these random buildings, renting rooms. They pay a market rent. For one room, they share with one family or two. So Habitat for Humanity Argentina bought one of these buildings, which is underutilized and empty, in Arandaria 674, just 2 streets away from Caminito. To reutilize this building, which is one of many in the block that we are starting to work with, where people live in these awful conditions without a kitchen or bathroom, sharing one room with probably another family, probably 12 people in one room. And this is what you see behind the facades of the buildings in La Boca. This is due to a market failure. There's a rental crisis in the city of Buenos Aires. So this project tackles 2 facts: the abusive renting conditions because of the informality of the market, and the misuse of urban space. That has as a consequence not just poverty housing, but an outrageous number of people dying. Infant mortality is huge in these buildings. And there are fires because of precarious wiring for electricity. The water has heavy metals and lead. Not having a bathroom means deficient hygiene. Being overcrowded means deficit in education possibilities. Lack of opportunities for developing micro-enterprises if you don't have a place. So in this building, we are going to recycle, to reutilize urban space. We are going to implement a financial device, which we call fair rentals. How would it work? These families that are paying a market rent for awful conditions would continue to pay that rent for an apartment in the building we are going to build in Arandaria 674 in La Boca. But at the end of a 4 years rental period, they will be reimbursed the difference between a fair rental and the market rental. We call fair rental the non-speculative amount of money to be charged each month for the apartment they are living in. In Argentina, it's roughly 1% of the value of the property a year. How will we ensure this difference between the fair rental and the market rental will have an actual value when the families receive it? We will use a system of shares. Each month, the savings of the family will be translated into amount of shares on the apartments of the building. After 4 years, the building, 2 of the apartments of the building will be sold to the market, which is already a higher value than the construction itself. We are constructing these apartments at about $40,000 each, and we could already sell them at $70,000 each. The proceeds of selling one of these apartments will be enough for paying back the difference between the fair rental and the market rental. And the proceeds of the second one will be used for a second building. We are already thinking of replications of this project. The idea is that with this capital, this money, a formal renting record, and habitats guarantee, families will be able either to rent formally in the formal rental market somewhere else or to access a mortgage loan from a bank. We know this is a possible model. We think that if many people embrace for rentals and if that many units are put into the rental market, a great difference can be made. But we are not exhausting the possibilities, so we are thinking of hosting in the, this is the render of the future building, which reinterprets the culture, the colors, and the identity of the community of La Boca. And in the ground floor, there's going to be a shop that will host what we will call the labs, laboratories for support of urban sustainable housing. The goal of the labs is to identify more models, to make partnerships with think tanks, academic institutions, agencies, professionals, to identify prototypes that can be tested, implemented, and then spread, publicized, so that we identify more efficient models to be implemented in the city of Buenos Aires. These labs activities include, for example, a grants contest to attract more ideas from different people to implement. Also, a big part of the project to ensure effectivity is advocacy. We've been opening the doors of the random building to people like Mabel Jimenez, who is Secretary for Housing and Urban Development of the national government in Argentina, to families of the neighborhood, to tourists, to other NGOs and interested actors. And the idea is that with this building and a second building and the replication of the model, the failure markets will be affected by incorporating more units, reutilizing urban space, and by culturally affecting the approach to rentals in the city of Buenos Aires.
So, Constanza, you mentioned this a little bit yesterday, but how can a project, because you're new and you're just starting, with such a small number of beneficiary families, have such an impact on a wide-scale problem? And sort of how does the government see you, and how do you take it to the next level?
We are working hard to declare this project of interest, public interest in the city of Buenos Aires and in the government in Argentina. We have already passed the legislative level in the city of Buenos Aires and have an endorsement letter from the national government. That we assume is going to help to have other actors interested in replicating the model. we don't mean to replicate it all alone. We are going to build more buildings and incorporate new units and do visibility and awareness campaigns and advocacy. But we are inviting other agents, NGOs, and government agencies to receive the model, adapt it, and replicate it themselves. We also think that a big part of the impact is in cultural changes. The approach to rentals is cultural in our country. Most of the requirements that are being barriers for the target population are just a cultural tradition. An interesting fact is that big insurance companies try to implement guarantee systems, and those are, for the landlord, more efficient than a property that has to be executed by a judge. But they were not accepted by owners as sufficient guarantees just because of cultural facts. So a big visibility campaign we are planning is supposed to have a big impact beyond habitat and beyond building, just changing the approach to rentals in the city.
That's great, thank you. And last but not least, let's have Aaron come up, and we'll move on to questions after Aaron.
So thanks again to HUD and Ashoka for providing the forum for this desperately needed global conversation on urban sustainability. As soon as we get queued up, I'm going to begin with a 90-second history of Buffalo, so collapsing 250 years of history into 90 seconds to provide a context on industrialization and deindustrialization that has shaped the experience of our neighborhood and allowed us to understand how to move forward. So are we ready? Okay, so Buffalo began as a port city, the terminus of the Erie Canal, one of the great public works projects ever. It became the largest freshwater port in the world, and then following that period, it became a major manufacturing center, an industrial center that drew workers from all over the world: Poland, Italy, Ireland, the American South, as African Americans migrated to places of work. And all of that wealth, by the 1930s and 1940s, through labor organizing, had allowed neighborhoods to achieve a middle-class, working-class status. And folks brought that wealth back to the neighborhood level and built a social infrastructure, social capital in places like taverns and churches, and created nodes of social activity that define their life patterns. We also brought wealth into our urban planning procedures. Olmsted shaped the city mightily in creating an incredible romantic street plan. And now we turn to a darker age of American planning, the 1950s, when the auto began to rule, and we just started to eat away at that comprehensive plan. So this is after, in preparation for highway construction that you can see there. One of our main parkways was destroyed. Simultaneously, industry collapsed. We lost about 150,000 manufacturing jobs as globalization took hold, the search for cheaper labor, and land use became dominated by sprawl. So the result of sprawl without growth was that we were left with 20,000 vacant buildings in a city of about 400,000 people at the time in 1980. And that varied quite a bit from neighborhood to neighborhood. In our neighborhood, we had about 20% vacant land and vacant buildings when we began on the west side of Buffalo. And you can see the challenges we identified: abandoned housing, loss of density. There still was enough density to provide for some commercial activity and pedestrian-friendly living. Buffalo is the third most impoverished city in the country due to deindustrialization. We had declining commercial streets and lack of programming for youth. We began our green development zone model really with the theory that people needed to drive development and that development needed to be reframed around the interests and the visions of people living in neighborhoods. So the first thing we did were a set of community planning sessions and surveys identifying assets, doing an asset inventory, and creating the beginnings of a comprehensive plan for our district. Part of our asset analysis was to look at things like abandoned housing that have been seen as detriments pulling down our neighborhood and realizing their potential for them to transform the economy of the neighborhood and to build a local economy. So we still had enough density to rebuild the fabric of those neighborhoods. We had vacant land that had been sort of an afterthought but provided a perfect context for urban agriculture. And we had properties that had lead and asbestos in them and that needed capital, but rather than seeing those as purely detriments, we saw them as potential places of work. So this is just an overview, a map of our green development zone. All of the green and colored spaces represent projects that are either agricultural, sustainable landscaping, or green architecture. We now control about 50 parcels on this map. Our partners, including Habitat for Humanity, Homefront, the Massachusetts Avenue project, control 15 additional parcels. And the overall objectives are here. I won't go through all of them. But you can see the second to last one is really sort of a little bit more abstract and elevated, but it's about creating a local economy, aggregating all of the work, urban agriculture, the green and healthy homes work, the green retrofit work, and creating a pool of capital that we can seed other social enterprises with. So these are the components of the green development zone. First and foremost is an ongoing process of community planning. We have green affordable housing development. We have community-based renewable energy projects. We have sustainable landscaping, urban agriculture, green jobs training, and then ongoing organizing around initiatives that will scale up this work. And together, that's our holistic, integrated approach to redevelopment of the West Side. Again, community planning. We have an annual community planning congress that looks at the overall plan for the district, and then monthly meetings on specific pieces of that plan. Right now, this is a meeting focused on a vacant, underutilized park space that we're going to construction on in September. And we look at the parcels from an aerial view and really map out every square inch of what we'd like to see. Green affordable housing, the notion again was that we can employ residents and train residents in the immediate blocks to turn what had been vacant spaces into high quality affordable housing. So this has renewable features such as renewable flooring, super insulation, radiant floor heat. It was all done by people living within a few blocks of this house. Once we complete the houses, we continue the social engagement and the networking. We also have a self-sufficiency fund for each tenant that lives in one of our rental buildings so that they create their own pool of capital over time. And we also mobilize residents living in our own buildings around our policy campaigns, our sustainability campaigns aimed at scaling up what we're doing. One particular project that we're proud of that's been recently completed and occupied is our first net zero house. It's essentially an off-the-grid house that utilizes geothermal and 2 solar systems to create more energy, produce more energy than it uses. It's now occupied. You can go to the next slide. That's just a look at how we bury the geothermal system. Again, we purchased the lot that this system is embedded in for $500. The real estate market is extremely undervalued. We purchased the house itself for $3,000. And rather than turning them into gentrified spaces, we've turned them into places that essentially the tenant in this structure will pay no utilities going forward because the house produces more energy than it uses. So again, organizing is central to what we do. This is an example of us highlighting the need for insulation in our neighborhood, where we are blowing dollar bills out of the windows to demonstrate that every house in our district needs insulation. They were built before insulation was a known quantity, and we've mobilized the community in such a way to help create a statewide program called the Green Jobs, Green New York Initiative, that is now projected to retrofit 500,000 homes over the next 5 years and create 25,000 jobs. So we worked on that with a New York City nonprofit called the Center for Working Families, and used both our organizing and our planning skills to move that initiative forward. We've also brought private contractors to the table as part of that scaling up. So this is a look at our contractor table. These folks are already doing retrofit work, also lead abatement and asbestos work, and with this new program, we're going to create a lot more jobs and be able to place the 120 trainees that we've worked with over the last 2 years with our partner, the Outsource Center, on sites across our region. Just to look at some of the ways we've sustainably landscaped vacant spaces. This is a tree farm on the right where we grow about 300 trees at any given time, and a rain garden on the left. MAP is a key partner of ours. They run an urban farm run by youth in the center of the Green Development Zone. They also have an aquaponic system that produces 30,000 fish, and they're at the cutting edge of urban agriculture nationally. Another one of our food gardens. This is a school partnership with a local elementary school. And then job training on creating those pathways out of poverty into green jobs. Carlos was someone who came to us at age 16, really without direction, had dropped out of school. And 4 years later now, he is a foreman in private construction, being self-sufficient and being a leader in his community. And I think we're going to cut briefly to a clip of a video on our Green Jobs Training Program. And I think that will round out my presentation. Thank you. Introduce it by saying that the first voice you'll hear is Eric Walker, the co-founder of the organization.
To a green economy that creates access to quality jobs for neighbors who need it the most is some of the most important work in this country. When we talk about a green economy, no place is pushing us more clearly forward in the right direction than Buffalo.
Landscaping in our vacant lots to do some food production as well as just sort of beautification, and then ultimately in this neighborhood we've got 20 plus lots, and for us the game is about control of the space. We're putting people in places to actually control the development of this neighborhood.
To healthy, fresh, affordable food. And so everything we do is really about localizing the food system, teaching sustainable growing methods to our teens and the youth who are going to be the future leaders, and community development.
The community garden, it's allowing me to grow these good, healthy food at a fraction of the cost. Not only that healthy foods are a shortage. When you do find healthy foods, it's so expensive that a lot of us low-income families cannot afford it. So we have corn, tomatoes, strawberries, beets, carrots, and the list goes on and on.
When you don't have a lot of money because you're paying bills, your bills are so high, you can't afford to have someone come in and insulate your home like Push did for us. My neighbors are paying $300 to $800 a month. They look at me and say, I wish I could have my bill like that. It's insulated, it's energy efficient. It's great because you're giving people an opportunity to get out there and work.
Training young men and women from the neighborhood in green construction skills, which we see to be a kind of a key component of the Green Development Zone.
We learned about solar power, geothermal, how to insulate your house, how to make it net zero. And when I got out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And like, school's not for everybody, and these green jobs can help people like me that like to work with their hands.
Before I got the AmeriCorps job, my friend, passed away, and I think that this was my sign to actually get a job, so I could be laying with him right now. And I get to drive down Winter, that I live a couple blocks down, and see something that I'm actually building and creating with my own eyes.
And I think about it every day. I think about it, and I say, Lord, thank you for pushing me and keeping me on my feet.
This pilot program could help us
So besides the obvious question, Aaron, what don't you guys do? I did want to ask about the community participation and input in the design. And you can see you did a lot of those group meetings. And sort of how did that help you really guide the different elements? And what were the specifics? What were they saying to you? Because, I mean, you've tackled a lot. Mm-hmm. And from a number of different angles, just retrofitting houses would be enough in many cases. So how did that community participation process sort of drive all of that specifically?
So I think that there are two levels at which the community process is important for us. One is that we have a mantra that the community knows what it needs where it lives, meaning that when we create a plan for a park, it's inevitably improved in both in the detail and the larger scope by having intensive community input, as we've just done. But then the level at which it really pays dividends is getting the park built. So we created, we did design charrettes for a sustainable park. People plotted out where they wanted the agricultural space, where they wanted the recreational space, where they wanted the public space, and then the people who planned that park literally took the plan to the mayor, organized around the plan, persistently up until the point that the mayor agreed to help us build a park. So there's both the power building level, the leadership development level, and the modes of planning where community input is important. So it's not a transactional model of just gaining input for the sake of input, but it's an ongoing process of leadership development. I would just say that we work with the Center for Community Change and National People's Action, some national alliances around community organizing to implement a leadership development program with very clear metrics and curriculum around things like communications training, around message training, around strategic planning, power analysis, so that people are building their skills both as planners and as advocates for those plans. I guess the last example I'd give is that when we started, we did a survey that came back clearly identifying vacant housing as the #1 problem in our neighborhood, according to residents. We did some research, and residents themselves, our members, ended up gaining control or taking control of about 200 houses that the state of New York had abandoned themselves in our district. We put placards on those houses to identify them as state-owned houses, and out of that organizing came actually a very productive relationship with the state of New York over time, as they recognized that we were serious about moving our development plan forward.
Okay, great, thanks. So that we get a chance, I'll hold any other questions I had here and open it up to the audience. We have a microphone right here. We'd ask you to come up and tell us who you are and ask a question. As we wait for people to think about that, I do want to recognize a couple people. Eduardo Rojas was one of the judges. He's sitting in the back there. I want to thank him for his work as a judge on the competition. And I also want to recognize Bill Kelly, who sits on Ashoka's board and has been a partner in other activities that we're doing too. So I want to give them a round of applause. So questions from the audience. Don't be shy.
My name is Natalie Crone, and I'm from the Neighborhood Funders Group. And I have a question for Mr. Aaron. In terms of the house, the geothermal house that produced more energy than it consumed, in terms of affordability, how could that be replicated? Because in terms of like solar panels and green roofs, those are huge investment. And so if you're going to replicate that with low-income communities, where would that funding come from? What would that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, with the geothermal system, was really proof of the viability of such a system. We're not at the replication stage yet. Solar, generally, my understanding, I'm not an expert in renewable energy, but solar is heavily dependent on subsidization everywhere in the country. So places like New Jersey and California are ahead of the rest of the country because of the structure of their subsidies. At this point, what we do see is the replication of certain technologies in the house, such as we learned a lot about insulation, for example. We have 3 different insulation systems in that house, and those are replicable. The geothermal, we learned through digging that lot some ways to cut corners and save money, so we are going to do a second system. I wouldn't claim that that's fully replicable yet. What we see as the most replicable pieces are the insulation, the furnace replacement, the other retrofit aspects that really are funded through a new state program that I mentioned.
Okay, thanks. Other questions from the audience? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Bill Kelly, and as Stuart said, I'm on the board of Ashoka, but I'm also the president of a group called Stewards of Affordable Housing. And I just wanted to ask if there's a role for private capital, either in what any of you is doing now or what you envision in terms of the ultimate spread or scaling of the ideas.
Want to tackle that first? Go ahead.
Okay. The answer is yes. We have a still of work to do still with long-term cash flow. But we have the feeling this could be attractive for investors, and we will need investors for replications, so yes.
Say quickly, the place of private capital for us is again, with the retrofit sector. So the new program that the state, we've created with the state, Green Jobs Green New York, has a $100 million pool of capital that's been seeded with stimulus funds, but is now being replaced by some foundation PRA funds, and hopefully over time, just some straight private capital.
Okay. Well, I want to say that what we call clean plants is the best investment because the quantity of the material which enters every day is the only product in Earth, in spaceship Earth, which augments 9% per year. So the municipality gets money because it doesn't need to travel. It's nearer. And the investor is secure because he can have the loan from the mayor plus the electricity, letting free the products for the community.
Let me follow up a little bit. I think we touched on it in some of our conversations the last couple of days, but Aaron, you mentioned the community development finance world and how active it was or wasn't in certain places, in particular in Buffalo. You want to comment on that? Because I thought that was interesting in the sense of what's not there.
Sure. I mean, first of all, we do have some assets to build on, like LISC has played a very important role for us, their Sustainable Communities model as a financial intermediary and helping us access some finance for affordable housing. But the infrastructure at the neighborhood level financially is typical of many low-income neighborhoods where check cashing, rent-to-own places, those are the financiers in our neighborhood. So we have a big void when it comes to community development finance. We're doing some initial planning. We're pretty far out from being able to launch anything ourselves. But we clearly see a need for financial institutions to better meet the needs for when it comes to savings and access to capital. Just say quickly, the retrofit program that I've been mentioning at the state level, Green Jobs Green New York, is innovative financially because it allows homeowners to finance those retrofits under their utility bills rather than accessing private capital through banks. So there's an easy finance mechanism that can eliminate some barriers through that program.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the audience?
Hi, I'm Christine Breeze from the Jacobs Center for Neighborhood Innovation in San Diego. And I had a question for Sergio. What kind of an investment would be needed to create a clean plant? And of course, it makes great sense, but there's this whole infrastructure and all these businesses and companies and policies and procedures in place to do it the old way, to take the trash trucks out to the dump and all that. So how do you address all of the various powers and stakeholders who support the old system? And what kind of money do you need to get things moving?
Right.
Very good question. Brazil has now a federal law which obliges our 5,562 cities in 4 years till 2014 to change the pattern of the waste, principally giving jobs to 1 million of catadores, the people who work with the waste, and recycling the best. Our clean plants give jobs inside and outside, because you multiply, you've seen the rods, which is the rotatory aerobic digesters, you can put them on the neighborhoods, and then you just put your humid organic, which dries, so once a week only you transport them to the clean plant. So you reutilize everything, so you give jobs inside and outside. So this the waste, the humid waste, when you put in 30 to 55 hours, you can use it for the forest to rebuild the forest, since they are fertilizers. If you put it on oceans, you create algae, which creates fish. So everything is productive. So this is the place. So you have a guarantee of investment because your material, which is entering the fabric, augments 9–10% a year, and social project, the sociability can move by itself. I don't know if it answers. So you have the background of the law. What we are trying to do is to take this proposal of law to 32 countries of Latin and Central America, in order that this concept of clean plants can be shared to 192 countries next year in the next forum with the Chart of Rio, with something much more human, which is the relation of human being to the spaceship Earth through the sustainable housing concept, productive, sustainable housing for all.
And with that answer from Sergio, I would also ask Costanza and Aaron, how do you get the government to do what you needed them to do? It's I guess somewhat easier when you have a regulation that comes down, as Sergio is describing in Brazil. But how do you get the government to engage and not see you as a threat or anything like that?
Well, in our case, we've really adopted the American community organizing tradition, the Saul Alinsky tradition, that sometimes is confrontational, sometimes antagonistic, sometimes dramatic, and but ultimately is meant to be a productive way of engaging people in power and getting them to move in your direction. So that means when I mentioned that we put up placards on 200 houses in our neighborhood when we first started, those placards had the face of the governor on them.
He forgot that part.
I didn't mention that the first time around. But that, I can tell you, we got attention very quickly as a small community group at that time, far more attention from the governor than we ever would have otherwise. So those are lessons that have been, learned by places like the Center for Community Change here in Washington and passed on over the generations, tactics, strategy, power analysis, and leadership development.
And you're continuing to teach that to sort of...
Absolutely. We have a campaign right now around moving funds that are currently misspent, conservation funds that utilities are misspending at the state level, moving them into the retrofit sector. And we use protests, direct action, media action to draw attention to those issues.
In our case, we have a lot to do yet. We are just starting, and it took us more than 7 months to obtain the permits for demolition of the old building. And once we obtained that, it was 7 months lobbying intensively. We have a channel of communication, which we feel will be useful in the future. What we are doing now is listing the regulations and norms that are not acting, as against the possibilities of this project. I think we will learn together with the governments. There are taxes that are for developers that seek rent, but could be helpful as incentives to replication. There are buildings the city owns that fall within the 100,000 buildings that are underutilized that could be given to agents interested in replicating this model. We are drawing a big list of things that we can do together with governments.
Our message, last message, is exactly when we showed the interest of President Obama coming to Brazil, of a joint effort toward clean technologies, and very interested in the pré-sal in Brazil to use the petrol that Brazil is having now from America to America. We have the scenario of having the Rio +20 with this project of sustainability in a word sense of Brazil process with this law which we are passing in this technology of clean plants. And together, the fact which the United States is interested to invest in Brazil in 2016, 14, and 16, which is a sustainable cup football and a sustainable Olympics. And I would really like to share in this meeting here with HUD this compromise to act together in the software, in the hardware, this effort, real effort of communication for sustainability for all Americas and after for all the world for the next 10, 20 years, not to discuss just the heating of the atmosphere, but really apply this project in sustainable urban housing in every place, everywhere. So I think this must be an effort. The result must be very practical, very pragmatic here, showing that all these competitors in the world, 289, here represented by 11, can be and shall be multiplied with real efforts in the scenario which is already open. 2012, to take this idea, the main new idea to the forum, Rio +20, with 192 countries. We will have 2 days for this discussion, 29 and 30 May next year in Rio. Second, 2014, the World Cup, which we can make a really big international event about sustainability, and finally an Olympics. So please, let's think about this. Let's make this encounter be the first one of an engagement towards sustainability for all. Thank you.
So anyone want to go to Rio, maybe? As a soccer player and coach, I think I'm angling for a certain time period there. So
we have Neymar in front. It's the new Pelé.
That's right. And we're going to take one more question, and then I am going to ask the Deputy Secretary to come up. But if there's one more question from the audience, I would take that right now before I introduce him. Go ahead, come up to the mic, please. The when?
Yeah. Can she complement the answer to Ms. Jacobson's question?
Sure.
Uma base para ter o custo da usina limpa é uma base de $100 por pessoa de uma cidade. Se uma pessoa, se cada pessoa der $100, você faz uma usina limpa numa cidade. Então essa e a taxa de retorno é muito grande, porque porque a taxa de entrada do lixo é paga por tonelada. Então, só essa entrada por tonelada já tem um tiro muito grande para a cidade. E todo o resto é lucro. fertilizantes, adubos, energia e materiais que são distribuídos para a comunidade.
So I think one of the things that was part of the question, because I know where Market Creek is, and thank you, because that's very helpful. And what goes through my mind as well is the systems that are there with the big waste collection in this country would pose some challenges at first. And so I think the economic model is important when you try to change these things because of the way garbage, basically waste, is handled. So this is it's very helpful. So you had a question.
Yeah, it's a little intimidating having the last question here, but I'm Nick McLean from Ashoka. And one of the things I've got from all three of the presentations, and thank you very much for presenting today, but one of the things is it seems like we really need structurally a kind of attitude change around development in general. And I mean, I come from Ontario, Canada, where there's a mixture of really innovative things like happening in Buffalo and Buenos Aires with just really, really dumb moves. And I guess what I'm wondering is, it seems like kind of necessity is the mother of invention. Like there were really difficult situations and your innovations really addressed those. And I'm wondering, what happens in places maybe where the situation hasn't got as bad yet? How can we sort of engender a kind of attitude change and sort of a more progressive, sustainable development agenda in places maybe where social needs are unmet but maybe not quite as dire?
I can jump in there. I would still return to the idea of building power at the grassroots through networks of leaders and finding very specific, achievable campaigns that can provide victories and momentum for moving forward. And that is happening among groups that I'm aware of across the country. Boston is a hotbed of community organizing. There are CDCs over the last 30 years that have transformed dozens of communities. There's a great one in Lawrence, Massachusetts called Lawrence Community Works that integrates both development and organizing. So I think no matter the context, that idea of creating an agenda with achievable pieces that can be pushed from the grassroots by leaders who are trained to advocate for it still pertains.
Thank you. And I hate to cut it off, but we have to, as those that were with us the other last couple of days, I try to keep the trains running on time. So I'm going to have to stop right now and thank our panelists, and I would like to give them a round of applause and thank you for coming all this way. So I have just a couple of words about our Deputy Secretary, Ron Sims, who some of you heard last night. The Deputy Secretary was sworn in on May 8th in 2009 and has been really, he's the perfect person for this closing because his track record, as he talked about a little bit, mirrors everything this competition is about. And embodies commitment to sustainable and affordable, inclusive, innovative solutions in urban development and on all the challenges that we have together. He was, as I think you know, executive for King County in Washington, a job he surely loved and talks about quite often, which is the 13th largest county in the nation with a 1.8 million resident metropolitan area, and includes Seattle, Bellevue, and Redmond, and 36 other large cities. And he served 3 terms, was nationally recognized during that period for his work on transportation, homelessness, climate change, healthcare reform, urban development and affordable housing, and his leadership in affordable housing and multiple community and housing partnerships have funded 5,632 units of housing during his 12 years. So an impressive track record before even coming to HUD. And, you know, one of the hallmarks was the integration of the environmental, social equity, and public health policies that really started to move King County along on climate change and healthcare reform. And therefore, he was not coincidentally one of the judges on the competition and saw all of these entries and has a firsthand knowledge and was engaged in that process. And I just want to add quickly, he may be mad at me for saying this, but I just recently spent 6 hours trapped in an airport with him, just the two of us, and it was absolutely wonderful. And I, for one, am going to be sad because he's going to be returning to Washington State and leaving HUD, but we know that his commitment will be great, and he will be doing many more things for sustainable communities going forward. So with that, thank you, Deputy Secretary, and come up.
Well, I once again want to acknowledge the extraordinary work being done throughout the world on the issues of sustainability and livability in our urban areas, making our cities so wonderful a place to live. You know, there are times, my wife made a decision like many wives do in the United States to choose between her professional career, which was very, very robust, and her desire to make sure that our kids behaved after school. She chose to leave her career, but she does everything so excellent no matter what she does. And I was thinking this morning, because it was such a warm day, about the fact that she could take fish and make it taste so exquisitely well. Nice touches of herbs sitting on wonderful beds of jasmine rice with a sauce that just came to mind, and it made, you could smell it, you could taste it. It looked good, you didn't want to touch it, but nonetheless, you did. And at the end of it, you said, wow, it was so incredibly filling to body and soul. There is a time in human history where the convergence of events creates an extraordinary meal. And that's what is taking place today. How smartly we can use resources, the viability and strength of the cities that people are moving to en masse. How do we move people through those? How do we connect them? How do we put the heart and the veins in them? How do we have clean air? How do we have upcycled materials? And how do we make sure that every person in those cities feels that they are a part of it, that they can feel essential, that it is a good place to live? And then how do we link those with rural areas? How are we going to be smarter than ever before? How do we reduce our impacts on climate change? How do we preserve species? How do we make sure that we have viable food sources? How do we ensure the health of people? How do we provide opportunities when opportunities in the past had not been presented? How do you empower people? How do you overcome poverty? The persistent demons out there. How do we make sure that people, no matter who they are, can still feel a part of a nation and a community? That's what the future means, and that's why the meal is going to taste so good. So you can sit here and one can say, is it out of our reach? But excellence never is out of your reach. You can say that, is there hope, and should we have, and my argument is to be hopeless is to give up on living and humanity. It is hope that drives our future and our vision. It is those things that you all are. Every one of you. I am singing to the choir. But I know this is being webcast, so I want people who are not here to understand that the key is that we have the collective genius and ideas from around the world. And somebody will say, but does it really make a difference what I do? But humankind has taught us one thing. It doesn't take many to change the course of events anywhere. And it certainly has not taken many to change the course of events throughout the world. In a world that needs your ideas, in a world that needs to be peaceful and prosperous, in a world that needs the efficient use of resources, in a world that needs clean air and clean water, in a world that needs smart transportation systems and smart building and construction in this world. You are the answer. So I want to thank all of you for your preparation of an extraordinary meal. It will not only look good, it will taste good. And so on behalf of all those who will dine like me because of your efforts, I want to thank you for being extraordinary chefs of an extraordinary future. Thank you.